Every night, a 100-pound Akita named Bear does something that makes absolutely no sense unless you know his story. He picks up a small peeled blue elephant toy. He carries it to the door and just waits. Jake has a dog in his house who has absolutely no idea how big he is. He still tries to climb onto Jake's lap on the couch, all with his 100 pounds. He doesn't whine at the door if Jack stays in another room for more than 3 minutes. He still takes his original puppy toy with him everywhere he goes, that little stripped-down blue elephant, even though it looks absolutely ridiculous now inside his enormous jaws. His name is Bear. To Bear, he's still the little 8-week-old Akita puppy Jake brought home 4 years ago. The only problem? It's entirely, completely, 100% Jake's fault. Jake shouldn't have gotten a dog. He was 24, living alone in a 2-bedroom apartment in Denver, and working long hours at a logistics company. His schedule was unpredictable. His apartment wasn't very big. Every logical reason pointed in the same direction. This wasn't the right time. But then a coworker sent him a photo. It was a pack of American Akita puppies born on a small family farm about 40 miles outside of town. The breeder had only one male left. In the photograph, he sits slightly apart from his siblings, looking directly at the camera with those dark, serious Akita eyes that, even at 8 weeks old, seem to carry the weight of an ancient document. Jake stared at that photo for 2 days. On the 3rd day, he drove 40 miles. The moment he entered the farm, the puppy walked toward him, perched directly on Jake's left boot, and looked at him. That was it. The decision was made, not by Jake, but by the puppy. On the way home, Jake named him Bear because he already looked like a tiny, round, ridiculously fluffy bear cub. Bear slept on Jake's chest for the entire 40-mile drive, his tiny paws curled under his chin. This was the first night Bear decided that sleeping in his lap was his specialty. It would never be the last. Jake has a dog in his house who has absolutely no idea how big he is. He still tries to climb onto Jake's lap on the couch, all with his 54 pounds. He doesn't whine at the door if Jack stays in another room for more than 3 minutes. He still takes his original puppy toy with him everywhere he goes, that little stripped-down blue elephant, even though it looks absolutely ridiculous now inside his enormous jaws. His name is Bear. To Bear, he's still the little 8-week-old Akita puppy Jake brought home 4 years ago. The only problem? It's entirely, completely, 100% Jake's fault. Jake shouldn't have gotten a dog. He was 24, living alone in a 2-bedroom apartment in Denver and working long hours at a logistics company. His schedule was unpredictable, his apartment wasn't very big, every logical reason pointed in the same direction. This wasn't the right time. But then a coworker sent him a photo. It was a pack of American Akita puppies born on a small family farm about 40 miles outside of town. The breeder had only one male left. In the photograph, he sits slightly apart from his siblings, looking directly at the camera with those dark, serious Akita eyes that, even at 8 weeks old, seem to carry the weight of an ancient document. Jake stared at that photo for 2 days. On the 3rd day, he drove 40 miles. The moment he entered the farm, the puppy walked toward him, perched directly on Jake's left boot, and looked at him. That was it. The decision was made, not by Jake, but by the puppy. On the way home, Jake named him Bear because he already looked like a tiny, round, ridiculously fluffy bear cub. Bear slept on Jake's chest for the entire 40-mile drive, his tiny paws curled under his chin. This was the first night Bear decided that sleeping in his lap was his specialty. It would never be the last. Now he had paths to walk, a routine to maintain, a living being who needed him to come home. Stories like this remind us why some bonds are more like gravity than preference. Jake started cooking real meals because he felt guilty about eating poorly in front of Bear. He started going to bed at reasonable hours because Bear's internal clock was sensitive and uncompromising. He started talking loudly, recounting his day, explaining his decisions, reporting after difficult meetings because Bear was always there. Always listening, ears perked up, eyes serious, giving every word the weight it deserved. Bear was undoubtedly the best listener Jake had ever known. By the time Bear was 2, he weighed 55 pounds and was still sitting on his feet. By the time he was 3, he weighed 60 pounds and still cried when Jake's suitcase came out of the closet. By the time he was 4, a gray stripe had started to form on his nose, and he still carried that faded blue elephant toy to the door every time Jake came home. Some things don't change. Some things shouldn't change. Last winter, Jake had to travel for work. 10 days. It was the longest he had ever been separated from Bear. He asked his neighbor Carol to check on him twice a day, to feed him, walk him, make sure he was okay. Carol's messages started coming on the second day. He's fine, but he hasn't touched his food. The third day, he's sleeping in front of your door. He doesn't come into the living room. The fifth day, this morning he carried that little elephant toy to the door and just sat there. I didn't know dogs could look so sad. Jake cut his trip short 2 days. On the 8th day, when he walked through the door, Bear didn't jump, he didn't bark, he slowly walked forward, rested his enormous head against Jake's stomach, and stayed there, motionless, just breathing. Jake stayed there too. He was sitting on Bear's head. Neither of them moved for a long time. Bear is now 4 years old. His nose is getting more gray each month. He moves a little slower on cold mornings, but he still climbs onto that couch every evening. He still rests his head on Jake's lap, still letting out that world-weary sigh that means everything is exactly as it should be. And Jake still lets it. Bear isn't rejecting growing up because of confusion. He's rejecting it because growing up means less close, less needed, less present. And Bear has nothing to do with that. Maybe it's not a flaw. Maybe it's just love without an expiration date. If you're considering bringing a dog into your life, you're not just getting a pet. You're getting a shadow, a heartbeat that synchronizes with yours whether you planned it or not. Give them your time, your patience, and your consistency because they'll build their whole world around you. And some of those stubborn, ridiculous, amazing ones will never let you forget it. Is this separation anxiety, or is this what true loyalty looks like? Please let me know what you think in the comments.